Randall is a third-year fiction MFA who just turned in a first draft of her novel manuscript, and she kind of wishes she didn't. Anytime Eowyn tries to be clever and funny, her brain short circuits, and the wittiest thing she can come up with is pointing out how silly it is that she's working so hard on trying to appear nonchalant and off the cuff. So don't expect much from this bio. This past semester, she's turned into the sort of college instructor who talks about their cat. She swore this would never happen. And now she's done it in an introductory biographical statement, which might be the worst. Who knows what new lows she'll reach. She promises there aren't any cats in the story.
So since I have turned in that draft that I'm not thinking about for at least another week, I'm going to read to you from a short story that I've gotten to work on. And I think I might be able to get through all of it. We'll see how this goes. This is called A Block of Lard, and it was something I went to, over the summer, went to the Hirshhorn in DC with a friend of mine and felt the need to respond to something there. So, block it. I feel like I haven't done this in a long time. Block of lard. I sit on a low stool and carve pieces from a hunk of fat. I am not the artist. This stool rests on top of a round platform about 1 foot high and 8 feet wide that rotates slowly. The fat has its own pedestal too. We are equally important performers in this piece, even if neither of us is the artist. Its altar is a refrigerated plinth a little taller than the stool, which, for one, elevates it, practically and ideologically, but even more practically, keeps it from melting into total uselessness as a sculpting material. Over the course of my shift, lard piles up around the plinth's base. Whenever the stability of the block looks tenuous, I lean down, scoop up a handful, and slap it back onto the slab. The smacking noise echoes satisfyingly in the room of the art gallery, where the slowly rotating pedestal I am placed on turns continuously. I am not the artist. Whatever I'm making out of the fat isn't the art. The person who directed me, indirectly, to sit here and mutilate this lump is John Skeeves, so he's the artist. If you asked him, he'd probably say that the idea is the art. The performance is the art, and the performance is separate from the performer. The performance is his, even though I'm the one performing it. It's his name on the plaque on the wall. I stick pieces back in the block. I carve different ones off. My shift is almost over. My hands are slimy and frictionless. My fingerprints buried under a layer of grease. The knife I use to carve the fat, a perfectly balanced butcher's knife, the kind top chefs pay top dollar for according to the plaque, keeps slipping in my grip. My back hurts. I'm more than ready to be home and in sweatpants instead of the pink 1950s house dress, nylon pantyhose, 3-inch black heels, and frilled apron that the artist dictates be worn for the piece. The gallery room is quiet right now, only 3 spectators, but it never gets too crowded. Usually no more than 10 folks at a time, and at least a quarter of them stare silently at the slightly more traditional art on the walls so that they don't have to admit to my presence in the room. Sometimes someone belonging to that quarter will even read the plaque all the way through and still make sure not to look at the art it describes, at the person creating the art that John Skeeves' name is on. Other people stare outright. It doesn't make much difference to me. I'm used to being stared at, used to avoiding eyes. The middle distance and I are old friends. I'd be used to this just from living, but I've had extra practice. I pick up gigs as a model for life-drawing classes sometimes, which is how I got connected to this job in the first place, in case you were wondering. I'm used to being stared at wearing a lot less than a pink house dress and heels, but then I know what I'm doing. I'm modeling. This job, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know where the art exists and where I do. Well, that's not entirely true. I have a suspicion about where the art and I stand in relation to one another, and I don't like it much. Of course, this gig I don't have to converse with the middle distance. I've got the slab of fat. I make it smaller. I build it back up. The woman who sits on the pedestal after me, who also wears a pink 1950s house dress, nylon pantyhose, heels, and a frilled apron, will deconstruct and reconstruct the slab after I leave the gallery. Another woman will take it up after her. I do know where I'll It's in the performance notes. But I'm not sure how many of us there are, if we're all in our 20s, if we're all white. We don't ever get a chance to talk. It's not like we're coworkers, even if we might be compatriots. Okay. Actually, there's one person in the room I make eye contact with. Sometimes. The security guard. She's not art or the performance of art. She's doing her job, which, I suppose, in a way, so am I. Maybe we're more alike than the visitors think. They certainly never watch her the way they watch me. She doesn't have a plaque on the wall next to her naming the artist. Sometimes, when the pedestal has turned me to exactly the right angle to catch her eye, I glance away from the block of lard to see if she's looking at me. She's usually not, but if she is, I wink. The first time I did, she looked surprised and her gaze darted around to the other people in the gallery to see if any of them had noticed. None of them had. The second time she smiled, hesitantly. The third time she grinned. The fourth time she winked back. I might have looked a little surprised then. I hope I played it cool. Either way, now it's our thing. Whenever our eyes meet on a rotation, we wink at each other. Well, it's something to look forward to anyway. By this point in my shift, the apron is always covered with flecks of lard that have sunk in and are turning into grease spots. I turn the outfit in when I leave the gallery and it's always hanging in my locker the next time I arrive. It's always starched and stainless. I guess someone must wash it. Or maybe it's discarded. Could be a new dress every shift. I thought about marking the inside of the collar with an X to find out. I wouldn't put my initials. I'm not anyone when I sit on this stool. I guess it doesn't really matter. The lard sticking to the pantyhose is the worst bit. There's a man standing about a foot away from the pedestal talking to a woman he clearly doesn't know. You can tell by their postures. It's easy. He's telling the woman that the slab of fat I'm half-heartedly carving, not because I'm half-hearted about it, I'm even less than that, but because it's in the performance notes. Represents the body. That's what he says. How I represent woman's constant struggle to control man's body by denying it and pleasuring it. I guess he didn't read the plaque. A small child walks up to the very edge of the pedestal and asks me what I'm making. She's not making anything, honey, the person with the child says. That's the point. I want to make it, the child says, and reaches for one of the dollops of lard on the platform. The person grabs the child's hand, and they move on to the next room of the gallery. Only you could, kid. It'd be more interesting than whatever this is, I'm sure of that. Sometimes I'm tempted to form the fat into a shape a little more tangible than the blobby trapezoid it is most of the time, but we aren't supposed to do that. The performance notes mandate that as well. The pedestal is about to put me at exactly the right angle. I glance up. The guard is looking at the door. I'll try again after 2 more rotations. The woman who isn't listening to the man explained to her that the fat represents the male body is nodding faintly. She hopes he'll leave first, but she's starting to doubt that will happen. I think about chucking a handful of the lard in his face. This would, of course, get me fired immediately and destroy whatever statement the art is trying to make, probably. But since I've been put in charge of performing the art, isn't anything I do inherently part of the art? I don't suppose I get to say. There's no clock in this room. No way for me to check the time. My shift has to be almost over. My back hurts. The rotating pedestal feels like it goes faster the later into my shift it gets. There was a guy once who walked around it as it turned, so he was always in front of me. He did this for at least 3 full rotations. He had that look on his face that people get when they look at modern art. A gentle frown, eyebrows drawn together. It's a face that says, I'm thinking. It's similar to the face you use when confronting one of those 3D magic eye pictures, or a Rubik's Cube. I wanted to throw a blob of lard at him, too. I've been getting that urge a lot. Kind of like when you're standing over one of those metal grates in the sidewalk and you think you should drop your phone down into it. You know you shouldn't. You don't even know why the thought crossed your mind, but part of you itches to do it anyway, just to see. Call of the void. Is that the term? What someone decided to name it anyway? Maybe that's what this piece is about. Of course, I'm the one feeling that urge, and this piece of art isn't for me. I'm just performing it. So instead, I indulge it, winking at the security guard when she notices me looking. It scratches the itch a little bit. Maybe the spectators feel that call too, though. Maybe they want to reach out to the pedestal and dig their fingers into the lumps of fat at my feet and squeeze, but only that kid realizes it's actually an option. It's a pleasant sensation, the lard between your fingers. Someone suggested once that the column of fat was being shaped and reshaped into a phallus over and over again. People see phalluses everywhere, especially in art galleries. After that, I spent a few days working at making the fat look as yonic as possible. Nobody noticed. People never see yawnies. My back has started to hunch a little. This blob I'm holding won't stick back to its source, and I'm focusing so hard on getting it to attach to the main piece again that my shoulders are getting tense. I probably have a frown on my face. I realize this and straighten myself quickly, smooth my face back to implacable passivity. I'm not supposed to show any effort in this work. To do so would suggest that I had some part in designing it, that this pillar of fat is the art that is being constructed, and not just a representation of the idea that the piece is constructing, an idea that was thought up by the artist. I was so fixated on getting that piece to stick that I missed the moment in my rotation when I can make eye contact with the security guard. I'm disappointed. I decide she must have been too. The next time I spin past that spot, she's busy telling someone to turn off the flash on his phone camera. She has to do that a lot. Before I make it all the way around again, I see my replacement walking in from the hallway. I drop the lump I'm holding to the platform and stand up. One of the men watching me looks startled for a moment, and then a flash of revelation passes across his face. He thinks he's figured it out. He's solved the Rubik's Cube. He knows what this piece of art is saying now, and he didn't even have to read the plaque on the wall. The woman replacing me offers up a hand to support me as I step down, and I take it gratefully. There was nothing in the performance notes about not touching the other performers, just about not speaking to them. We smile at each other, quick and small, so that no one but us can see. I don't look at the security guard as I leave the room. I don't look at anyone. I can feel people watching me leave, though. This is always the moment when people become most engaged with the piece. They feel like they've gotten a peek behind the curtain, like they've seen through the trick, like they know more than the other people who stood and watched a woman in a pink dress rotate, watch chunks of lard get detached and reattached. They feel superior. I don't get to tell them there isn't a trick or a curtain. I don't get to say anything. They can read the plaque. It's a quick walk to the room where my street clothes are stuffed into a locker. Probably leave a few splatters of lard behind me as I move down the hall, still not looking at anyone. A few of the people I pass will figure it out when they get to the room where the art installation is. They'll feel superior too. They'll be sure they figured something out that most people haven't. I change quickly, leaving the apron, the house dress, the stockings, and the heels in the hamper. They'll be in my locker and waiting when I return tomorrow, or a different but indistinguishable set will be. Instead of leaving by the rear entrance like I usually do, I go back the way I came, through the gallery's halls. I feel a bit like a spy. Where I was hyper-visible before, I'm just one of the crowd this time. I turn back into the room where the woman I just helped up, who just helped me down, is rotating on a pedestal and shaping a lump of fat. I don't look at her. She has enough eyes on her as it is, though I do wonder if she'd even recognize me out of costume. I wonder if I'd recognize her. I walk over to the security guard. "Can I help you?" she asks, her eyes cutting to me briefly before resuming their continual scan of the room. There is no recognition on her face. I'm both thrilled and disappointed by this. I don't know whether it means I'm an even better spy than I thought, or whether the tentative connection I decided we had didn't exist at all. "I'm hoping so," I say, and she turns to look at me again, disgruntlement at my crypticness already beginning to form between her eyebrows. She has to deal with selfish, demanding imbeciles all day. She doesn't know I'm any different. Maybe I'm not. I like to think I am. They probably do too. I'm having too much fun as a spy to give up the role completely, though. So when she asks curtly, "What do you want?" I wink at her in response. Comprehension fills her face, like the people who think they've seen behind the curtain, but she's actually comprehended something, not just told herself she has, not just given meaning and shape to a pile of lard. She grins. "Will you tell me your name?" I ask.